Metallica. Even though Sabbath invented metal, without a doubt no other band on the planet has helped shape the genre as much as Metallica have. It's hard to believe the Kirk Hammett that was on the classic albums is the same Kirk Hammett that played on the last two records. Sounds like you really can't be bothered anymore. Megadeth. Rust in Peace is the greatest metal album ever made, and the band's history of lead guitarists is unmatched. Besides their classic 90s albums, Dave Mustaine's vocals are completely unlistenable. Lamb of God. You can't deny that they have some of the best riffs in metal. There's not all that much variation between their songs, so there's only so much you can listen to before they get a bit boring. Slayer. They're one of those few bands that are so legendary that their reputation and cultural status holds more weight than their actual music. They had already lost their shock value by the 90s and quickly turned into a parody of themselves. Slipknot. It's impressive how they managed to take such an extreme genre-bending sound, but still somehow make it pretty commercial and accessible. Corey Taylor is probably one of the most truly unbearable people on the planet. Black Sabbath. They were the first band to play metal as we recognize it today. The way Ozzy always sang in unison with the guitar riff sounds incredibly dumb. Iron Maiden. Nothing comes close to their run of albums in the 80s. Complete classic metal perfection. They really need to stop this horrible phase of trying to be a prog band and just go back to writing some nice, catchy bangers. Children of Bodom. They were a truly unique and original band with insanely talented musicians and songwriting ability. Unfortunately, Alexi's musical talents didn't translate over into lyrical writing, to say the least. Gojira. One of the most instantly recognizable bands of the modern era, and an extremely exciting band to see live. Something about their music is lost when just casually listening to them at home or on headphones. They really need to be seen live or listened to on a huge audio system. Avenged Sevenfold. These guys are some of the best songwriters and producers in metal, and helped make flashy guitar playing cool again. Those stage names are absolutely atrocious and belong in some corny amateur Twilight fanfiction. Tool. The band have an incredible artistic vision and have made some of the best music videos of all time. If you're not jacked up on hallucinogens, then their music is incredibly snooze-worthy. Dragon Force. They injected a much-needed dose of fun into the metal world and helped make guitar shred popular again. The excitement they created at their peak has long since worn off and kinda sounds like they've been running on empty for many years now. Mastodon. I honestly can't think of any other band besides Metallica who have created so many legendary guitar riffs. They're a textbook example of how purposefully diluting your sound to try and reach a wider audience is a terrible idea. Opeth. No one could touch this band at their peak in the 2000s. I can't think of many other bands who have written 6 near-perfect albums in a row. It was a huge middle finger to their fan base when they did a U-turn on their style after Watershed and decided to become an overly self-indulgent 70s roleplay band. Meshuggah. Probably the biggest brain musicians on the planet. They influenced a whole legion of awful copycat bands. Behemoth. Their music videos are fucking amazing and the band's aesthetic is super cool. They take themselves far too seriously and often come across unintentionally funny because of it. Rammstein. Probably one of the least likely success stories in metal. How a German-speaking band managed to make industrial music a major mainstream success is an incredible feat in itself. If the band doesn't click with you, then their music probably sounds like completely ridiculous. Nightwish. They were a truly original band back in the day and single-handedly popularized the symphonic female-fronted genre. Tarya's vocals were like nails on a bloody chalkboard. Thank God for Floor. System of a Down. It's amazing that they became such a massive cultural phenomenon with so few albums and very little activity, and even now their sound is still completely unique. The two frontmen are grade-A narcissists who have always put their own egos before the band and its fans. Cannibal Corpse. They were instrumental in bringing death metal to a wider audience and are one of those rare examples of extreme bands that are known even by the mainstream. The shock factor wore off a long time ago, and they haven't really done anything relevant in many years. Lorna Shore. They're one of those few modern extreme metal bands who are actually doing something genuinely exciting. The way their songs stop and start every 30 seconds is really f***ing annoying. Ghost. Tobias Forge is actually a songwriting genius. They need to stop that nameless ghoul bullshit. No one cares about their gimmicks anymore. Death. Chuck's Banshee vocals were insane, and his style of riffing was hugely influential. Their prog phase in the latter stages of their career was f***ing terrible. Sabaton. The band just have such an unrelenting feel-good energy to them that always makes you want to stomp around. Their lyrics are so horrendous, I would honestly have thought they were a comedy band if I hadn't heard them before. Judas Priest. Rob Halford's vocals are unmatched, truly one of the most iconic voices ever. On stage, the band are about as mobile as a sack of potatoes. Pantera. Easily in the top 5 most influential metal bands ever, featuring some of the greatest metal guitar playing ever recorded. The band are a bunch of extremely unlikable asshats. Dream Theater. They're such great musicians that even to this day, their classic albums are still the best examples of prog metal ever written. Mike Portnoy's personality was a big part of what made the band so good, and they just haven't been the same since he left. Five Finger Death Punch. They have Andy James on guitar, one of the best shredders in the business. Don't even know how to be witty about this one. Their songs are just absolute knuckle-dragging, far-right, pandering cringe. Mayhem. Much like Slayer, they're one of those few bands that are so legendary that their reputation and cultural status holds more weight than their actual music. When you listen to their music objectively, forgetting about their history and stuff, you soon realise they were actually pretty awful.
Alright, mate! Do that! Do that! Then do that! Nice one!